Shalom. We're continuing our limud of Sefer Yeshayahu. We're up to Perek Mem Tes. Again, these are prophecies of Nechama. Some of them are messianic, and others are simply foreseeing, number one, that Nebuchadnezzar will destroy the Beis HaMikdash. But number two, 52 years later, this small empire, or the small country Persia, will destroy the Babylonian Empire and give the Yidden the right to come back to Yerushalayim and rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. And that could have been a Geula Shlema, L'tzarenu. Only a small number of Jews did come back, and that is why it did not have a kiyum. So now, the Navi in this parak is very interesting. The Navi gives us a little bit of his personal struggle. And he says the following: Shimu iyim elai, v'akshivu le'umim meirachik. So although he's talking presumably to Yidden, but he's saying, I am speaking to the isles, the islands, the faraway islands, and the nations from far away. Hashem mi beten kara'ani mi me'imi hisker shemi. Hashem, for whatever reason, decided from the time I was born, he summons me to be his prophet. Within my mother's womb, he was geyser in Shemayim, that this would be my tafkid. Now again, it's interesting. I mean, I'll just raise a question. We don't have the ability to fully analyze it. Since the Navi is speaking in his personal voice, is he saying something from Hashem? Or are these mamash, the Navi's own words, which means they themselves would not have the status of Nevuah? Something to think about. Vayosem pi kecherev chada. Hashem made my mouth like a sharp sword. Now this has two connotations. Number one, my job as a Navi is to be mochiach, to give musar, to be sharp, to be cutting, to tell people what their chesreinas are. So I'm cutting people up like a sword. But there's another connotation, that because his nevuahs come true, when he says b'shem Hashem that a nation will be destroyed, they're going to be destroyed. So he's both a sword in terms of the teichacha, and a sword in terms of the churbanais that happen, that he prophesies. So my mouth, my words are like a sharp sword. B'tseil yadai hichbiani. But Hashem protects me in the shadow of his hand, because many people want to kill Yeshayahu. In fact, I'll leave it the emes. Yeshayahu was in fact killed by Menashe. But apparently, there were many attempts on his life. He's always giving musar, he's always criticized, he's always saying, this bad thing is going to happen, this bad thing is going to happen. A Navi is not necessarily a popular person. And Yeshayahu is giving thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that in spite of the fact that my words are like a sharp sword, Hashem protects me. Vayisimeni l'chetz barur biashpaso histirani. And he made me like an arrow that he keeps in his quiver of arrows. Vayayimer li. And he essentially says to me, Avdi ata, you are my servant, so I'm protecting you. Yisrael, you are the model Jew. Asher b'cha espoer, that in you, espoer, Hashem says, I will be glorified. Now the emes is, in Pshutai Shel Mikra, this phrase, Vayomer li avdi ata Yisrael asher b'cha espoer, is the Navi talking about himself. In fact, Pirkei Avos says, although it doesn't fit the overall context and continuity, that this is about the Jewish people as a whole. And Hashem says to me, the Jewish nation, Avdi ata, you are my faithful servant. You are Yisrael, the one who struggled with the angel and won. Asher b'cha espoer, in you I become glorified. This is Hashem's tribute to Am Yisrael. But now we go back to the private reflection of the prophet. But again, it's going back and forth between, is the Navi talking about himself, or is the Navi talking about the Jewish people, or somehow the Navi becomes a representative of the Jewish people? So when he's talking about himself, he's also talking about the Jewish people. Right? This type of poetry, nevuah, is always hard to decipher. V'ani amarti, I said to myself, L'rik yogati, all of my toil is for nothing. L'sayu v'havel kaichi kilesi, I have used up my strength for futility and emptiness. So, if the Navi is talking about himself, he's telling us, there are many times I get discouraged. I give musar and musar and musar and hadracha and teichacha, and nobody changes. And I ask myself, is my life worth it? What am I accomplishing with my life? This is the personal agmas nefesh of the Navi. This may be sometimes the agmas nefesh of a parent, or the agmas nefesh of a rebbe. We've all been in that situation, one place or the other. Is all my effort for nothing? Ochein, however, mishpati es Hashem. I know my mishpat, I know my justice is with Hashem. I know Hashem has given me a mission, so it must have value. Pulasi, all that I do as Elokai is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yata, and now Omar Hashem, Yitzri mi beten le'eved lai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created me in my mother's womb to be his Eved. Hashem gave me a mission. I'm going to do it. L'shovev Yaakov Elav, to bring back Yaakov, the simple Jews, to Hashem. V'Yisrael lo with a vav, Yosef, and even the so-called aristocracy who think they're tzaddikim, they too are sinners, so I will bring them back to God. That's my job. V'yakabed b'einei Hashem ve'elokai haya uzi, and I have been honored in the eyes of God, and God has been my strength. The Navi is talking to himself, but talking to us. Don't get discouraged. Do what you can, even though it seems that you're failing. And then he says, and Hashem enlarges my responsibilities beyond the Jewish people. Vayomer nokel miyaischa li eved l'hakim eshiftei Yaakov u'nitzurei Yisrael lahashiv. Hashem said, it is too light for you, too easy for you, just to bring back the Jewish people. U'nesaticha lior goyim, I have made you a light unto the nations, lios yeshuasi akaziaris, that the salvation of believing in Hashem should spread all over the earth. Yeshayahu is also a Navi to the nations of the world. So there's kind of almost a humorous irony. I'm trying to reach the Jews and nobody's responding, and I think I'm a failure, and I think I'm not accomplishing anything. Hashem says, oh, by the way, I'm giving you an extra responsibility to be a Navi to the Goyim as well. Which means you're not doing this smaller job, I'll give you a bigger job that you're not going to complete either. Because your tachlis is to do and not always to accomplish. And in all of the generations, we read these teichachas, and we read these musarim, and we apply it to our own lives. So Yeshayahu's mission continues to accomplish. Now, so these first 6 psukim are Yeshayahu's private meditation. But now we're back to the central message of comfort to Am Yisrael, starting with Pasuk Zayin. Kai Amar Hashem, Gayel Yisrael Kedeshai. So says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is the Redeemer of Israel, who is the Holy One of Israel. And who is Hashem speaking to? Livzo Nefesh, to the souls that are humiliated and denigrated by the nations of the world. Limitaev Goy, to a nation that is made an abomination and a mockery by the other nations. Lieved Moshlim, to a nation that is a slave to harsh rulers, the Babylonians. There will come a time, Malachim Yiru V'kamu, the greatest kings will fear you and rise up to give you kavod. Sorim Vayishtachavu, the princes will bow down to you. Laman Hashem, for the glory of Hashem, Asher Neman Kadosh Yisrael, who is faithful in keeping his promises. Vayivchareka, and he has chosen you. This time will come. Now this did not happen. Even in Koresh's time, this is clearly a messianic prophecy. Kai Amar Hashem, B'yeis Ratzain Anisicha. The Geula may be a time that we don't know, but there will be a time of Ratzon where God's grace is very great. And I will answer you in that time of grace. Ubiyom Yeshua, and on that day of salvation, Arzarticha, I will help you. Vetzarcha, and I will protect you. V'yantancha lebris am, and I will make a covenant with you. Lahakim Eretz, that you will be able to reestablish Eretz Yisrael, which will go through such a churban. Lahanchil nachalei shememais, to be able to resettle inheritances that have become desolate and empty. Lamor, and I am declaring to you, liasurim, to those who are imprisoned, or those who are chained up, tseyu, you will leave your chains. Liasher b'chayshech, for those who live in the darkness, like a prison cell, Hi galu, be revealed. Al drachim yiru, and you will be traveling like sheep on the roads that will bring you back to Eretz Yisrael. Ubechol shafayim, and on every mountainside, which are normally, things don't grow on mountainsides, but there will be marisam, there will be pasture, meaning food for you as you're going up the hills. Lo yirabu, you will not be, they will not be hungry. Lo yitzmo, they will not be thirsty. V'lo yakim shara v'shamesh, and the heat and the sun will not be hot. The return to Eretz Yisrael by the Messianic era will be one of gentility. Now again, one might say, going back by plane might be a fulfillment of this, that we don't have to go through heat and hunger and the like. We have air conditioning, we have refreshments on the plane. Again, that's not great, but it's so much easier, and perhaps that's been fulfilled already. Ki merachamam yinahagem. Hashem, who has mercy on them, will lead them home. V'yal mubuei mayim inalim, and he will lead them by pools of water, refreshing water. So again, it's describing the brachos of being able to come back to Eretz Yisrael. But again, water is also a reference to the Torah knowledge that will be increased. V'samti kol harai l'darach, and all the high mountains and hills that make traveling so hard will be smoothed into a road. Again, this might be Makoyim by air flight. Umasilosai yoruman, and the depressions, because when you're walking down it's also hard, will be evened up. Hine, Eila meirachak yavayu, the Yidden will come from so far away. Eila mitzafan umiyam ve'eila me'eretz sinim, from the north and from the west and from the land of the Sinim. Now some say Sinim is even China, interestingly enough. Others say Sinim is a lashon for south, so it mentions they will come from the north and they will come from the west. right, America, and they will come from the south, Yemen, etc. It's interesting, it does not mention, and I don't have a mahalach here exactly, it does not mention people coming from the east. Now, we did talk about Koresh coming from the east to defeat Nebuchadnezzar. So, it's not bored to me why east is eliminated, but the scene is Yidden will converge from all directions. Ranu shamayim, heavens, sing a song of joy. Gili aretz, earth rejoice. Upitzchu harim rina, the mountains themselves should break out in song. Ki nicham Hashem amo, Hashem has finally comforted his people. V'yaniyav yirachem, and those poor, impoverished Jews, he shows mercy for. Now, we're still in Perek Memtes, but starting from Pasuk Yud Dalet, we actually have one of the 7 haftarahs of comfort that we read in the 7 weeks between the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, Shabbos Nachamu, until Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. So these psukim are actually very, very familiar because we read them at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. V'taimer tzion azavani Hashem. Tzion, personified, it's really the Jewish people, but we're looking at Yerushalayim as a city, as if it's a person. And Tzion says, just like in Eicha, Yerushalayim is described as an almana. V'taimer Tzion, and Tzion says, after the Chorban. Again, this is a nevuah before the Chorban, but the Navi is talking about what Tzion will say after the Chorban. Ozavani Hashem. Hashem has forsaken me. Vashem shechechani. God has forgotten me. But Hashem's answer is, Hatishkach isha ula. Does a mother forget her baby? Meirachem ben bitna. Will she ever cease to have compassion on that which emerged from her belly? Gam eila tishkachna. Even if a mother could forget her child, Anochi lo yeshkachech. I will not forget you. The Gemara in Brachos has a supplementary drasha here, that if Hashem remembers, so maybe Hashem will remember the Chet HaEgel as a kitrug. Now the Chet HaEgel was when the Jewish people proclaimed, Eila Elohecha Yisrael, these are your gods, Israel. So Gam Eila Tishkachna means not as can I forget, but it means I will forget the Chet HaEgel V'anaychi. But your willingness to accept the Torah, Nasev v'nishma, when I said, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, lo eshkachech. I will always remember that. That's more in Brachos. Eila is the Chet HaEgel, Anochi is Matan Torah. But the simple meaning is, Gam Eila Tishkachna, even if a mother could forget her child, I will never forget you. Hein al kapayim chakaisech. It is as if you are engraved on my hand. Again, this is a metaphor. I look at my hand and I see you always. The walls of Yerushalayim are always in front of me. Because there's a Yerushalayim Shel Maila that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mistakel in. Giving him a yearning to bring it down to the Yerushalayim Shel Mata. Miharu banayich. There will be a time in which your children will hurry home to come back to Eretz Yisrael. This may be before Mashiach or after Mashiach. Maharsayach macharivech mimech yetzayu. Maharsayach, those who try to destroy you. Macharivech, again, those who try to undermine you. Mimech yetzayu, they will be expelled from you. They will be gone. Now there is a famous drasha, I'm not sure if it's from Chazal, that instead of saying mimech yetzeyu, they will be expelled from you, you can actually translate a little bit different. Those who destroy you come from within yourself. Mimech yetzeyu, meaning the biggest machrivim of Am Yisrael actually come from within Am Yisrael itself. The apikorsis, the sinas chinam. Okay, but either way you interpret it, the pasuk is talking about the Yidden are going to come back. And now we continue addressing Yerushalayim as if it is a bereft woman, a mother who has lost her children for so many years. She'i saviv einayech ure'i. Lift up your eyes, Yerushalayim, and look around you. Kulam nikvetzu bo'olach. They are all gathered together, coming home. Again, I hope people do appreciate the beauty of these words. Chai ani no Hashem, ki kulam ko'adi tilbashi. You, Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, you will wear your children like the adornment of a kala. Usekashrim kekala, they will adorn you like a bride. Ki charvaisayach v'shema maisayach v'yeretz harisosech. All of your ruins and all of your desolation and all of the land that's been destroyed. Ki ata, now, when the Geula comes, Teitzri mi yoshev v'rachaku mivalayach. You will be crowded from those who are coming back to sit with you. And all who try to destroy you will be distanced and pushed away. Od yomru bi'oznayach b'nei shikulayach. There will come a time that all of the b'nei shikulayach, all of the children that you thought you lost, and let me emphasize, this is not just physically but also spiritually. Sarli hamakom. I mean, imagine a mother who hasn't seen her children for so many years and she doesn't even know if they're alive or she thinks they're dead. And one day, they all come back. They all come home to their mother. And they even say, Mom, it is so crowded here. Can you move over and make some more room for us? They will say, Tsar li hamakom, it is too crowded here. Geshali v'yesheva, make room so I could sit. V'yamart bilvavech, and you will say in your heart, Mi yolad li asela. When did I have all these kids? Ani shechula v'gal muda. I was bereaved of my children, and I was all alone. Gola v'sura, I was exiled and did not have any resting place. V'yela migido, who raised these kids? Again, how did they remain faithful to me in the years of golus and persecution? Hein ani nisharti levati. I was left all by myself. Like Yirmiyahu said, Eicha yashva badad, ha'ir rabasiyam, how desolate is the city that once was so great. Eilei, who are these kids? Kai amar Hashem Elikim, so says Hashem, Hine esel goyim yodi, I raise my hand. That means Kaviyachal, Hashem makes an oath. I raise my hand to the Goyim. El Amim Arim Nisi. I lift up my flag, my battle flag, to the Amim. Ve'heviu banayach b'chaitzen. They will bring back your children in their aprons. Uvenos, or your sons, in their aprons. Ubenosayach al kasev tinosena, and your daughters will be carried on their shoulders. Again, what is being suggested here is there will be an aspect, and again, we can't pinpoint this until when Mashiach comes, we'll know. in which the return of the Yidden to Eretz Yisrael will not simply be by a war or a conquest, but the nations of the world will recognize the right of the Jews to live in Eretz Yisrael and will help them return. That's the symbol of carrying them. I don't want to get too political, but the UN resolution 1948, again, short-lived, because today most of the world is not supportive of Israel, but there was a time where the Umos HaOlam encouraged us, and even today with the Abrahamic Accords. But that's the point here. The Umos themselves will carry you. V'hayu malachim omnayach. Kings will be your nursemaids. Sorosehem and nikosayach. The officers, again, will be the nurses. Apayim eretz yishtachavu lach. They will bow down to you, acknowledging your greatness. Afar raglayich yelachechu. They will lick the dirt of your feet. V'yodat, and then you will know, again, speaking to Yerushalayim as a woman, Ki ani Hashem, I am the true God, Asher lo yevaishu kovai. All that hope in me will never be ashamed. Now you might say, Hayukach mi gibor malkolach. If a military soldier, a mighty hero, took spoils of war, is there any way to get it back? The Umos took Eretz Yisrael, they conquered it, they destroyed the Mikdash. How do you get back what a Gibor has taken? Im Shavid Tzadik Imolet. So Tzadik here means victorious. The Shavid, the captives of a victorious army, will be able to escape? It's impossible. Bavel is so powerful. Later, Edom is so powerful. Kikai Amar Hashem. Hashem says, Gam Shavi Gibor Yukach. I can reclaim the captives of the mightiest soldier. Umalkayach Aretz Yimalet. And the spoils that are taken by the most fearsome leader can escape. Es yiriveich anochi ariv, I will fight your fight. Es banayich anochi yeshia, I will save your children. V'achalti es monayich. So monayich are all those that abuse you, and all those that abused you, I will feed them their own flesh. Meaning, if they refuse to do tshuva, they themselves will be destroyed. Perhaps even they'll become cannibals. Uchasis damam yishkairen. And like juice, they will get drunk on their own blood. Again, this is an expression when people are going to be decimated. They eat their flesh and they drink their blood. V'yadu kol basar kini Hashem. And then all will know that I am the God, Moshiach, who saved you, v'goalech, and redeemed you. I am the Avir Yaakov, the mighty one who protects Yaakov. Now, this is the end of the Perek. The Haftarah will continue a little bit into the next Perek, so we will do that in our next Shir.